Hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here on the BFI YouTube channel for another Scene interview. Today we're kicking off a brand new season of Scene, focusing on film festivals and filmmakers who have experienced significant success at festivals, as we near closer to the 2025 BFI Future Film Festival. My name is Tom Hermawan. I'm a BFI Film Academy young programmer, and I'm excited to be hosting this week's interview, joined by the incredibly talented writer and director, Liam Pinheiro-Rogers. An acclaimed London-based filmmaker, Liam has made numerous short films, including the one we'll be discussing today, London's Forgotten. It's an experimental knife crime drama which uses ghostly narration, powerful imagery, and a fantasy narrative to explore the cyclical nature of violence within the urban London landscape. Since its 2022 release, the film has received acclaim and praise at various BAFTA qualifying festivals. It received a nomination for Best Director at the British Short Film Awards and won Best Experimental Short Film at the South London Film Festival. Currently, it is available to watch online through the BIFA qualifying digital platform Director's Notes. I'm very excited to learn more about Liam as a filmmaker and his journey getting London's Forgotten into festivals and in front of audiences. So please welcome Liam Pinheiro-Rogers. Hi, Liam.
Hi guys.
Thank you so much for joining me here today.
Yeah, no worries at all. Happy to be here.
So just to start, could you please introduce yourself and your short film, London's Forgotten?
Yeah, so I'm Liam Pinheiro-Rogers. I'm the writer and director of London's Forgotten, an anti-knife crime short film.
So where did the original concept come up for this film? Why did you feel sort of motivated to make such a powerful anti-knife crime drama?
So yeah, it essentially started off from my childhood. I grew up in Tottenham, which in the early 2000s was not the best area to live in. And as a child, I didn't really know that until I got into secondary school. That's when I kind of realized it was quite bad. And it it all kind of kicked off when my neighbor's son was tragically killed in a rival area with Green, which I used to go to all the time as a kid. And my parents moved me out. And despite the fact that I now, like, I never got involved with like the gang lifestyle or anything like that, but that past still kind of spoke to me, like in terms of I always ask questions about, why was the area bad? Why did my neighbor's son die? Why did people I know get involved in knife crime? So I I just had that idea kind of brewing in my head, like, okay, maybe I could write something about this. And so in 2019, almost out of nowhere, the idea just came to me, like it just, okay, let's write an anti-knife crime short film. And I was originally going to make a fantasy kind of anti-knife crime short film, no budget kind of thing. So yeah, it just kind of it was always in the back of my mind, just the area that I grew in my childhood, and it was only in 2019 that was like, okay, like there's an idea there, like let's write something about it.
Well, like you said, the original idea was back in 2019, and
Mm-hmm.
it was a lot smaller in scale and budget from what I've read. Do you think these sort of delays that you experienced in rewriting of the script made it stronger final film?
Oh, 100%. I mean, when I wrote it in 2019, there was no meat on the bones. It was literally that scene in the alleyway where Daniel is walking down and he confronts his own body. Spoilers. That was literally the whole film. That was all it was going to be, and to me, that was just, if I made that, it would have just been, okay, there's a bit of shock value there, but it doesn't really say anything about knife crime. But over time, I kind of expanded the script. I decided I wanted to take it in another direction and make sure I had a bit more layers to it. And I was originally going to shoot this again at the end of 2019 with a slightly better script. That got delayed, and then I was going to shoot it in April 2020, and do I have to say what happened in April 2020? So it got delayed again, and then all the way up to like the end of 2021, I finally got to make it with a much better script with layered characters and yeah.
Hmm. Well, yeah, it sounds like the additional things you came up with over those years were especially the abstract ideas and sort of the inclusion to humanize victims of knife crime through these like small vignettes of their lives that you include in the film. Um, why did you sort of feel compelled to explore the cyclical effects of violence rather than just depict it on screen? Because I know you purposefully didn't want to do that.
The main reason, honestly, was I've seen anti-knife crime short films, and not all of them, but a significant amount of them I saw were it was kind of the same thing. You saw some guys arguing, and then someone gets stabbed, and then that's it. And well, what does that tell you about knife crime? It says that okay, getting stabbed is bad, but it doesn't say like how did these characters get here in the first place, you know? So that's when I wanted to tackle the root causes. But to tackle the root causes, there's so many and so many issues in knife crime, and you can't explore, or at least it's very difficult to explore all of that in a short running time. So I thought, you know what, let me do this in a way more experimental way, kind of combine the social drama with a bit of fantasy, because the whole theme of the film is about how, despite the fact there's so many issues that the characters have in the film, their fate is going to be knife crime, and usually it's a lot of societal issues, and that's why you have like the trickling blood that connects all the characters. Like even though every character's story is different, there is that fate that all of theirs is the same, is that they get they unfortunately become victims of knife crime. So I wanted to kind of explore it in that way.
Hmm. Is that sort of the same reason why you didn't want to show a knife visually on screen? I know there's only one scene where you actually see a knife, and it's not sort of the scenario or the context that you'd typically expect from a film like this.
Yeah, because I think with knife crime, okay, like obviously the weapon usually is a sharp object like a knife, but again, that's not like the knife isn't the reason someone gets involved in knife crime. And so I thought, okay, I am gonna have a knife in there. But it's almost like a little bit ironically, like the knife is
Hmm.
in there for a positive reason. It's cut in the cake in a party scene. Like it's a beautiful moment, but that's what I mean. Like it's not really about the knife. It's about, as I said before, it's about the root causes. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, the symbolism of that was really strong and made the film so much more powerful. And going back to what you said before about the sequence of the blood sort of spilling through different homes and scenes with different families, where did the original idea for that come up? Because I'm guessing it wasn't back in 2019, it wasn't in the original script.
Oh no, it was not. The that kind of montagey sequence, it kind of evolved over time, and I knew with that it had to look legit. It had to look as real as it could be, despite the fact that obviously it's a fantastical sequence. But I thought, okay, if I was going to use completely CGI, it just isn't going to work. And on the other hand, if I use completely practically, it will be very ambitious. So we kind of combined both elements, but more adhering to practical elements. Like for example, the plug socket scene where you see like the blood seeping out of the plug socket. Like
Hmm.
we had a fake plug socket, and the actual tube we had the effects artist like underneath the frame just blowing CO2 into the tube, so it blew out the blood, which is really cool. Like, yeah.
Was that sort of the most difficult scene or sequence to film, or was there a different one that was more involved, more work?
Oh, it was up there. We had a lot of the interiors with that montage. We only got maybe like 5 shots in that day because we knew like we needed time to focus on those shots. Like everyone had to be on point, the timing had to be on point, the actors had to be on point. So yeah, like that was definitely the most difficult element of shooting.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you have a lot of experience as a filmmaker. Do you have any advice that you'd give to young filmmakers starting out in the industry today?
Yeah, so I would say if you haven't already, go out there and start making short films. If you want, go big, but not big enough to where you burn yourself out. I would say just challenge yourself as much as possible. And you have to realize that you're going to be faced with rejection. Your films are probably not going to start out great. I know that because I've made absolutely terrible short films in the past. And but it's good to jump in as, even if you're doing like, let's say, directing a film or something, jump in as a producer and an editor as well, so at least you have experience of different
Mm,
factors of filmmaking. And I think as well, not only with making films, but outside of that, go to networking events, go to as many as possible. And yeah, just see who you can meet. Like, there's some great networking events. Obviously, BFI has some great ones. Rain Dance as well. Like, you never know who you're going to meet. And I'll be honest with you, London's Forgotten probably wouldn't have been made if I didn't meet some specific people in those networking events. You know?
yeah. I think that plays both into sort of when you're producing and making a film, and then also the second part where you're trying to get films into festivals or trying to get it
Mm.
screened in front of audiences. I think networking is so important in both of those. And as I mentioned earlier, the focus of this scene is film festivals, and London's Forgotten obviously had a very successful run. It was selected for Leeds International Film Festival and London Film Fest. I mean Liverpool Film Festival and a bunch of others like that. What was your approach when you were submitting to these festivals? Like, was there any strategy behind it, or did you sort of apply for as much as possible?
So there was a strategy to it. With film festivals, if you go for as many as possible, I feel like you could just burn through your bank account. And there are so many festivals out there that you probably don't want to be applying to. There's a lot of fake ones out there, a lot of scammy ones out there. So I will be honest, I did go big. I decided, okay, like, I'm gonna go for BAFTA and BIFA qualifying festivals, which, for the
Hmm.
young filmmakers watching this, there is a list you can find easily online which have the BAFTA and BIFA qualifying festivals. So I targeted those specifically. I made sure to research the festivals as much as possible too, because one factor about this film is that it is kind of like a blend of experimental and narrative. It's not fully one or the other. So I had to make sure I targeted festivals that really, um, that seemed to be okay with a mixture of both. Um, and on top of that, making sure I targeted festivals that were London based. I went to as many like London film festivals as possible, including
Hmm.
the South London Film Festival, and Kino as well. So especially with a film that's centered so on London, like I couldn't ignore London Film Festival. So that was kind of like the plan. Made sure it was BAFTA and BIFA qualifying. Made sure they kind of adhered to the kind of film that it was, and then also like London specific film festival.
Yeah, nice. What you said before about emptying out your bank account, just trying to get into festivals, it's obviously such like a undervalued process of filmmaking. You've completed the film, you think you're done, but so much of the budget normally has to go into this stage. Did you sort of plan for that while you were in production, or was that something you didn't think about until after you'd finished the film?
So I had some money set aside for film festivals. I knew that I was going to target specific ones, so I didn't have to spend an ungodly amount of money. I still spent a lot of money, obviously, because festivals, depending on which ones, they can vary in price. But I definitely made sure to have some money set aside for the festivals, and also I made sure I had a little bit more than I actually needed, just in case, because some other festivals that I got in later, I applied to later. Um, I decided I just wanted to shoot my shot and see if I could get into a few more festivals because I enjoy festivals, and I think they're great to go to. So I had some money left aside just to make sure I could, I'm okay with submitting to more, even if I don't get into more.
And a lot of the festivals you did get into were UK based, and like you said, specifically London based. There's so much success at ones like South London Film Festival and Kino, like you said. Do you think the film resonated at those festivals specifically because of its sort of topical subject matter and the way you use London as a character in its own right?
I definitely think so because, for example, the South London Film Festival, I know the founder is based in Lewisham, and I know that a lot of the people that go to the South London Film Festival are from Lewisham. Lewisham does have a bit, it definitely has some issues with knife crime and the surrounding areas. And I know a lot of people have come up to me from those festivals being like, hey, this really resonated with me. And that I feel like with Kino as well, it's kind of the same kind of story. I feel like with a film that is experimental slash narrative, a lot of the London festivals were okay with that kind of ballsy filmmaking just because of the message it was saying about London.
Mhm. How did it feel for you to have it screened at so many London film festivals? Because it's a somewhat personal film, and then you're obviously local yourself.
Yeah, no, it was amazing. It was great, and like I said before, with the community, people from the community coming up to me and just thanking me for making a film that touched on the issue and the way that I kind of told it, I thought was really exciting, and yeah, I loved it.
Nice. And then obviously after all these festivals, you decided to premiere the film online. It's on Director's Notes, the digital platform. Why did you decide to release it this way? And would you say it sort of helped reach more, like a bigger audience and a wider range of people?
hmm So yeah, with director's notes specifically, I knew it was a reputable platform for a lot of filmmakers and a lot of films to premiere on. And I did my research on a lot of different film platforms, and that was up there on the top of the list. And I didn't want to just target any others because a lot of them, some of them are based in the US, and I didn't want to just do like a completely US kind of one because it's set in the UK. That doesn't make sense, at least not to me. And if I just dumped it on Vimeo or dumped it on YouTube, like it's great and all, you'll get like maybe a few views, but I don't think it's almost like that's the place for it to die. While on somewhere like Directors Notes and other platforms as well, to be honest, like you will get they will write up a nice article about the film which gives it a bit more context. But not only that, someone who may know nothing about the film may be scrolling through Directors Notes, someone who's like a film buff, and they'll see that article. They may read up about the film, they may see the stills, and they might be convinced, okay, like I'm gonna actually watch this. But it's not just I didn't just dump it on director's notes as well. I made sure to let cast and crew know that it was going to premiere not only in this day, it's going to premiere at this specific time, so that we could share it as much as possible. That's another thing I would say to the young filmmakers. If you're putting it online, make sure you have a strategy on getting those first few views, because they always say like the first 24 or 48 hours are key to getting like your audience, I would say.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure I found it on Director's Notes, and that's how I watched film for the first time, so it's definitely true.
Yeah. Amazing.
But like you sort of touched on, so many young people make short films and then post them on YouTube for an audience and just to get someone to watch it. Would you suggest if someone's made a film that they're sort of really proud of and they think would do well to be more sort of selective in terms of posting it online?
So when you say selective and posting it online, do you mean they skip the festival process? Do you mean they skip like posting it on the platform, or
Yeah, so just instead of seeking out festivals or specific platforms, they just post it publicly on YouTube and leave it there.
yeah, I would advise against it. There are cases where filmmakers have posted on YouTube and they've been lucky to have producers sets upon it and they're like, okay, I'm going to give this filmmaker this amount of money to make a feature or something. But that's completely rare. And I think with festivals, you're just missing out on building that audience. You're missing out on finding people who either can, whether they fund your next film, whether they are part of the crew of your next film, or even if they're just like a long-time fan who, they're sharing your work and stuff like that. I mean, that's what happened with London's Forgotten. I met so many great people at every single festival I went to. I do not regret it. I loved seeing it on the big screen. And also, like, forget your own film. Like, it's nice to just see other people's short films as well and just see what everyone's up to. And yeah, I think that's the best way to really grab your audience. Like, if you want to dump it on YouTube or Vimeo or whatever, then all power to you. But I do think you're missing an opportunity to really grow yourself as a filmmaker and have that trajectory. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. You mentioned earlier Kino, the London Short Film Festival, and London's Forgotten obviously got selected for that this year in 2024. And it's a BIFA qualifying festival. And to have that continued success 2 years after the film finished, and then sort of 5 years after you had the initial idea, would you say film festivals are sort of an ongoing process, like it's not a one and done?
Yeah, I would say that with film festivals, 100%. Like you need to you definitely need to target them, and you need to target the best ones that cater to the film that you're to the story that you're trying to tell. And I think you need a full strategy for your film, for post, for not only the festival run, but for what happens afterwards. Because that's another thing. Like even people who do decide to go to festivals after the film has done its festival run, it's almost like, okay, well, what's like, what do I do now? Like you need a plan for afterwards. And for me, it was kind of I because Kino came after the director's notes article, and that I decided Kino was going to be kind of like the last film festival, and I thought it was very fitting that we ended on the London specific film festival. But I will be honest, we didn't plan to have like more festivals after the director's notes article, but I feel like just showing it to as many people as possible is great.
Yeah. Do you have a specific like favorite memory or favorite screening of the film that you could tell us about? Just off the top of your head.
Ooh, okay, well, quite a few. I mean, I'll say that South London Film Festival was definitely like a, a big, a big one. Sorry, I couldn't find a better word to describe it. But yeah, like I think the fact that it was in Bromley Picture House as well with the big screen was amazing to see. And I think South London Film Festival as well had a lot of great films on there. So it's more of a memory of like the whole kind of experience and all the other films that I got to see as well. And I also got to meet a lot of other filmmakers on that event. Saying that, it snowed that night, so I had to get an Uber home from South London. I live in North London, so that was probably not the best part of that event, but everything else was great.
Okay, good. As long as the festival's good, that's fine.
Yeah.
Um, so finally, this is the last question for you. With the deserved success and like massive impact that London's Forgotten has had, what can we expect to see next from you and your filmmaking journey?
Oh, so yeah, I mean, as a filmmaker, I've always wanted to go down the path of being a writer and director of feature films, and I want to keep that kind of trajectory of London's Forgotten and continue with films that are similar in the way where I can use genres that you don't really expect to tell stories about societal issues that I care about. So my next short film titled Scilus, which is in Latin to commit a crime or crime. It's a lot of different kind of ways you can interpret to do with crime, and it concerns an ex-offender who he's on community service and he's taking time out of his day to break into a council house every day to confront a ghost before his curfew basically starts. And I'm trying to kind of ponder questions about criminal rehabilitation and redemption. That's kind of like the social commentary and the horror kind of like being mixed into one, which is quite similar to London's Forgotten. And I'm hoping to kind of start an initiative with the film with having ex-offenders on set playing like extras and stuff like that, which I think is kind of different films like that. So that's what I'm going for next. I've got crew lined up, looking for funding as most filmmakers are, but I'm very excited to do that. And it's a proof of concept for a feature film.
That sounds amazing. Wow. And I can definitely see the links between that and London's Forgotten as well. So there's a clear like next step with it. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. It was amazing talking to you. London's Forgotten is such a compelling film, and subject matter is so prevalent. And I feel so lucky to have been able to talk about it and hear from you, learn about sort of your experience with film festivals as well. Like I'm sure it's been insightful for everyone watching. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Um, so thank you everyone for watching. I urge you all to go watch London's Forgotten, which is available through the link in the description of this video. It's a devastating but well-crafted narrative, and I hope you all take the time to watch it and read up more about Liam's career. That about wraps it up for this week's theme, so thank you all for joining us. I'm excited to announce that from 5 p.m. today, you can check out this year's BFI Feature Film Festival program, which will be posted over on our social media channels. Please come back next week to watch my fellow BFI Film Academy young programmer, Elijah Smith-Ayton, interview T. Vituma about his film, Highgate 214. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for watching. See you later.